President Trump has come up with yet another tariff warning, and this time it is Europe. Ever since Trump called to annex Greenland, the transatlantic alliance has been witnessing a major friction. The friction became quite apparent after European countries rejected Trump's call to police the Strait of Hormuz. As the NATO countries chose to remain neutral amid the ongoing US-Iran war, Trump berated and warned the alliance of dire consequences. In a bid to punish NATO, Trump not only belittled European countries like the UK, France, Italy, and Spain, but threatened to pull his support from the Ukraine war. In a recent such warning, the US decided to pull 5,000 US troops from Germany. This happened after German Chancellor Merz said that Iran has humiliated the US through the negotiations. But the trouble for Europe doesn't end here. Donald Trump has issued a strict deadline to the European Union. After his call with EU President Ursula, Trump demanded that Europe either comply with the trade deal or face much higher tariffs. Trump has set a deadline of July 4th, before which the EU must comply with the framework of the trade deal. In July 2025, Trump had struck a trade deal framework with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in Scotland. The deal stated that the US would levy a 15% import tariff on European goods. The tariff rate was a big achievement for both economies as it halted a trade war between them. The deal called for the EU to cut its tariffs on US industrial goods to zero. It included terms that the EU provides duty-free quotas on some American farm and sea produce. It also proposed that Europe would invest around $600 billion in the US. Europe also agreed to increase the purchase of US energy and military equipments. Before the deal in 2025, Trump had threatened Europe with around 30% import tariffs. Ursula had called the deal a hard-fought outcome, describing Trump a tough negotiator. President Trump called out the EU for not keeping its side of the promise. He wrote, "I've been waiting patiently for the EU to fulfill their side of the historic trade deal we agreed in Turnberry, Scotland, the largest trade deal ever." Reiterating the terms of the agreement, Trump mentioned that Europe had agreed to impose 0% tariffs on US goods. The European Parliament's Trade Committee stated that the 27 bloc nations are on their way to slash duties on US goods. But there is still a way to go. Reports mention that there is division among the bloc members as some European countries are seeking higher safeguards. Before finalizing the deal, they want safeguards like the European Union should be able to suspend the deal if the US fails to comply. Another sticking point is that some nations want tariff concessions to be conditional, meaning it should apply subject to US actions. Some of the nations also want the entire tariff concession for the US to end on March 31, 2028. Notably, the US and EU account for 1/3 of the global trade. If the EU fails to comply, then, as per his previous warning, Trump might increase the tariffs to 25 to 30%. This increase would be a great setback for European companies, especially the German auto industry. The US is one of the top markets for European goods, while Europe continues to remain the top destination of US arms sales. Any disruption to trade agreements would affect a myriad of sectors and not the auto and defense industry. The US-EU framework, if it failed, would disrupt the supply and sales of aircraft, pharma, agriculture, and semiconductor sectors. Even though Ursula von der Leyen has shown her commitment towards the implementation of the trade deal, the EU's recent discussions over the deal have reached nowhere. With some of the bloc nations looking to safeguard the deal, a shadow of doubt looms over the much-debated EU-US trade deal.